welcome to another episode of Customer Success Talks Real Challenges, Experts Advice, the podcast dedicated to helping those transitioning into customer success and early career customer success managers. I'm your host, Byron Toruño, passionate about customer success, a customer success manager, and just like you, I'm still learning about this amazing world of customer success. And like you have seen in other episodes, we are touching a little bit of everything that can positively impact your day to day or our day to day activities. Everything from communication skills, persuasion, emotional intelligence, career growth that we're going to touch on that today. And there's many more coming as well. Because at the end, everything we are talking to humans, right? This is like Sahil says, H to H, human to human, and that also involves negotiation, that also involves empathy, proactivity, problem solving, that also involves a lot of influence. So there is just a lot to touch on. And today we will be focusing on career growth. But before we jump into today's episode and before I introduce you to our guest today, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Flola. So I have a question for you. Are you dealing with complex onboardings? Just take a couple of seconds and think about this. Are you dealing with complex onboarding? If so, meet Flola. Flola helps automate and simplify complex onboarding and implementation processes, share resources and project plans in a personalized link. You can also collect data and documents without that back and forth, and also auto populate your CRM. That simple, just one click. Accelerate revenue recognition, improve client engagement, and make a first great impression. So going back to today's episode, like I said, we're going to talk about career development because we are aiming to help those transitioning into customer success and early career customer success managers. And for that, we have an amazing guest with us that I had the pleasure to meet a couple of months ago in Amsterdam, Nieves Canada. Nieves, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here and talk about, of course, building successful careers in customer success because it's a field that I'm deeply passionate about as well.
And I noticed that when we were coordinating today's episode, because with you we can easily touch a lot of topics in general, but we decided to touch on this one in particularly because I think it brings you back to when you also started and all of that things that I'm not saying that you're not continually learning, but also like what mistake you made before and what you're now learning from. So it's nice to have you here. It's nice to have you in the podcast. Thank you for that again. And let's start with letting everyone, who are you? Can you tell everyone who's Nieves Canada and your background?
Yes, for sure. So I've always been in tech, software, SaaS, and I've been in both corporates, but also startups and scale-ups teams, always within revenue-related customer-facing teams.
Ah,
Currently, or the last part of my career went more into customer success. I think that's where I found my sweet spot. And what I'm doing now is I'm advising startups, scale ups, and building teams within these companies around post sales revenue or customer success. Currently acting as VP of Customer Success at Settlement. And I'm also deeply involved in coaching and mentoring because I love making impact not only on businesses, but also on people. So that's also something I really enjoy doing. And thanks to the CS community, I've also spent the last couple of years talking to audiences as a speaker.
how do you have time to do all of that? What is your technique? Do you just do you? I'm pretty sure you stop time and then you do your stuff and then time continue.
I think it has been not always like this from the beginning. I had to find my way, but I'm proudly spending time and energy on things that make sense to me and identifying those. I think that's the key component because then time, you always have time, but if you spend it on things that drain you energy, time becomes something more challenging. So I think it's about yeah, energy management more than time
Energy
management, I would say.
management. Wow. Interesting. It's like knowing how many people to invite and who to invite to the party.
and when to go to the party and when to stay at home.
Love this, love this. And you also have, so your consultancy is called CS Plan, am I right? Can you
Correct.
tell everyone a little bit of what will people expect and when should they visit your website? Because I'm pretty sure there must be more than one here interested.
Well, I think customer success is such an evolving field that suddenly it was out there without not knowing a bit or everything about what customer success means. And that goes into different levels, from companies that want to make sure that they are retaining their customers and they never had such a focus on their company. So the services that I'm providing is to build up teams in those companies from scratch, but also to have some strategic workshops with C level so that they understand why CS is going to help their business's growth. But also, what I'm having more and more are people that are promoted from an individual contributor. They've worked as customer success managers for a while. They did an outstanding work, but then they are promoted and they don't have the tools to move from individual contributor to strategic contributor, to build a team, what are different pieces to put together to do that. So I'm also enjoying coaching and mentoring those first time leaders in CS and in post sales in general. So that's how I you can see my offering from a company level to individual level.
Yeah, and that way I can assume that you're gonna be you see everyone's development as well. I think that's must be really, really satisfying to see the development of someone from the beginning to the end.
Exactly. And you also see the development from a professional perspective, but also from a confidence perspective. I like to work first on a personal level because I believe there is so much inside that a person cannot see by themselves, and that's where the coaching part comes in. And once that's out there, you can work on the mentoring part, and that's more on what you need to do from a strategic perspective with a company, with different departments and so forth. So that's how I normally approach those type of support, first from an internal development and then from team and external
Love
development.
that, love that, Nieves. So everyone, remember, if you're curious to see what is Nieves doing and all the programs that she has and what she offers, and you want to be part of her mentees, please go into today's episode description, go and check CS Plan, but also remember to check Flola because there's a discount for you. And I forgot to mention this. Flola will all give you a discount. So go into the link, go and check Flola because with Flola you can create collaborative and personalized onboarding portals for each customer, which of course that accelerates time to value using templates as well, and it improves the customer experience. So go and check it out. There's a lot for you. Nieves, when it comes to you going back, let's imagine that we get into a machine and we go back in time, right? 15 years, 10 years ago. When you were transitioning into customer success, what was your story behind it? Because what I want to hear from you is what can we do to prepare for this transition into customer success?
I think the very first thing that's happened to me was I've always been within sales related roles, but I couldn't find myself in those
Mhm.
for some reasons. So when I first had to build a post sales team in a corporate environment, it was more inside sales, renewals. That was kind of my very first step into customer success, but it was much more revenue heavy focus. I was missing something else. And when I entered into the scale up environments, I got to learn what customer success in a mature environment for a CS organization was. And then I found the missing piece because I'm someone that loves to make impact, to help others, to grow customers, but I don't really enjoy going, selling, and going and find some more sales. So I was missing that part of connection of building, yeah, providing value
Mhm.
more than selling. So for me, the focus was shifting from selling focus to value focus, and that's how I think, for me it was really like, okay, customer success is a place where I can find myself finally.
Mhm.
So there are many skills that you need in customer success that you can build out there, regardless of the job that you have. And I think that was for me also an eye opener. Transitioning into CS is I can bring here many, many skills that I've been developing without even noticing that I was coming into this direction.
But can you name one of those or a couple of those skills that you feel that are important? Because if I'm someone who's thinking about transitioning into customer success, I might I might know myself. So I know this is my strength, right? And I know this is my weaknesses. So by hearing from your perspective, which are those skills that we need to either develop or have in mind that we will use, so that way we can start planning ahead.
Yep. I think what you mentioned is super important, because first is understanding what are my strengths,
Right.
right? And what are those skills that I've developed, but also what I enjoy doing. Because when you move into CS, you can go into an early stage CS department where the typical role is wearing multiple hats, and then your typical skills will be a bit of everything. Or maybe you want to taste that, and you enjoy having multiple hats. As soon as you understand these are my core strengths and this is really where I want to spend my energy,
Mhm.
talking about energy management, maybe you want to focus only on onboarding customers, or maybe you only want to focus on growing customers and chasing those upsells. And that's also for you a way to understand, if I want to develop those talents or those specific skills, I need to go into an environment that is already ready for me to develop those skills. But in general, I think in CS, you need anyway to be curious, because
100%.
otherwise you will never understand your customer businesses, goals, pain points. So curiosity is about asking the right questions, active listening, and not thinking ahead of what people are telling you, but really, really
Be
understanding
be in the
what they
present.
fully be in the present time. Exactly. I think CS comes also with a lot of adaptability and resilience, because the nature of the job, and probably where the environment is not a set in stone environment. So you really need to be someone that whenever bad times are coming, you are a resourceful person, you will get over that. But you need to be adaptable, because otherwise you will suffer, I would say, to be part of customer success. I think also something super important is to take ownership, and also to be a strategic thinker, because I always say CS, when you only can add value when you connect the dots between what a customer really needs and the resources and the things that you can put together, because that will provide businesses with customer outcomes. And on the other hand, you will be able to orchestrate resources, and by
Mhm.
that I mean from looking for the right person to help the customer, or getting things done internally. So there's a lot of stakeholder management as well. You were talking about EQ. I think, yeah, a high skilled EQ person, it's a great customer success probably as well.
But I think, Nieves, that we are in a position where we are in between the customer and our company. So it's also being the face of the company, but it's also being the face of the customer. So
Yeah.
I love what you said about curiosity. I will add never assume, like be like, but that's also a lot of the environment where you work in the company. If it allows you to actually be that curious and create that environment of, yeah, let me ask some questions. Of course, I really did a research and I
Mhm.
couldn't found, so I would love to hear your perspective. But then also adaptability, resilience, ownership, strategic, these are really key skills
Mhm.
that one can develop when transitioning. I think that we can all develop this, and this is something I just came up with the podcast, right? I think I was a little bit hardcore, but it doesn't have to be like that. I think that there are a lot of communities out there.
Mhm.
and communities and mentorship can definitely be a good start to hear other ideas and what mistakes people have done and how have they developed the strategic thinking, the ownership, and so on.
100%. I think also when I go to conferences, the one prerequisite that organization ask speakers is tell real life stories, because you always can read a book, right? You don't go to an event to have more literacy on customer success. There are books out there. There are specific things. There is a huge content out there on LinkedIn, but what people need are real life stories where to understand this person has been in my position and this is how they solved it. So that's what I also try to transmit during my mentorship, but also during the those conferences, is specific things that relate to a specific topic that can my or may support others.
It, I cannot agree more, but I want to hear from you as well. Which have been the most common mistakes you have seen people transitioning into customer success doing? Because I'm pretty sure with all of your experience, you have seen things that now you go ahead and recommend not to do before it happens.
I think what's I the first thing I see is when you have built 1 2 years in customer success, and certainly within an organization, that were some frameworks and that's and specific task to get done, like QBRs, for instance, that you don't question, is this adding value to my customers? Because
Aha.
if you don't, for me, it was, to give you an example, when I was individual contributor in customer success, sometimes I was scared of having QBRs because I never knew if my person would be there. Because sometimes you are showing what the company is telling you to show, which is how are they using your software, what they can do to improve your the usage. But what does that mean for a customer? What's in for the customer to see statistics that they can read or that they can even visit? So I think being curious and coming back to curiosity and understand what's in for that person to be there that day, I think that has a tremendous effort in the level of engagement that you can have with your customers,
Mm,
not only for
mhm.
PRs but also for any type of, you can have a framework, but I do believe we need to go beyond the framework and really understand what adds value for a customer beyond a process and a framework and a task that is assigned to us. So I'm not saying you need to cancel and not to follow the rules, but start thinking, how can I add more value to my customer?
Like, oh, you mean questioning? You actually mean question? Ah, I thought the other way around. Okay, questioning the why something is done.
Yeah, and what's in for my customer as well, so I can increase their perceived value.
Playbooks plays a really important. It's a really important tool because it creates the structure that we all need as well, right? So yeah, it's a good idea to have it, but it doesn't mean that it will work exactly for every customer, right? So I have like
And
several tabs with similar deck presentations, but they all are different because maybe a customer doesn't need this or the other one just want to talk and talk, right?
exactly, exactly. And what I'm seeing now that I'm in a more external position with companies is that those playbooks that are developed within a company might not work in another company at
Mhm.
all. So because you need to adapt them to your ICP, to the stage of your company, to the maturity of your CS. Sometimes you are coming from a plug and play SaaS product, and then you go into selling multiple products that are more technically complex. So there is no correct model or framework that you can just plug and play. That's what I mean. Like, even if you've spent 5 years as a customer success manager in an organization and you have the whole playbooks for you, frameworks, and so forth, that doesn't make you the best customer success in the next organization if you don't question, is this going to help me there as well?
Mhm.
Why yes and why not? And what do I need to adapt to make sure that I still can mean value to my customers beyond the framework?
Yeah. And Nieves, we need to continue talking about curiosity, right? Because it's just a so important skill in customer success. And if I go back to what you're saying here, is like you need to question and be curious, but I think that you have to keep in mind that you are partnering with the customer. You are the partner, right? So yes, you are the expert in what you do, but they are the experts at what they do. So I think it's not bad to actually go to the customer and ask some questions for you to understand them better. They will appreciate that. Like I'm working right now with hotels and in the Nordic side of Europe, and that means that there's a cultural difference as well there. And I ask some questions to better tailor the suggestions that I'm going to give them.
Exactly. And active listening, and I'm talking about active listening in every single talk and every single podcast. It's such an underrated word because it has become a buzzword, while it's really, really super important if you are an individual contributor, if you are a customer facing person, if you need to work with colleagues. It all starts with asking the right questions. And if you start switching off the problem solving minds and you just listen, you can't believe the amount of information that you can gather to help that person, being your customer, a colleague, a conflict. It's not about, okay, there is, this person is telling me this, so I need to, no, this person is telling me this. Why? Why is he telling me this? What does he needs or she needs? And when you start being curious and asking that question, that's the only way that then after that conversation you can provide the best value for that person.
My mind just exploded. Yes, you just said switching off the problem solving. And that can be so scary. It's like, wait, why would I turn off my problem solving if I'm here to actually make my customer successful and I need to bring solutions, blah blah. But then you're saying, no, switch it off. Be curious, because then what I perceive from what you're saying is that if you're curious and you have the information, the enough information, then you will have the best solution. Am I right?
Yeah, and I can give you an example that I used this year during a conference. I was giving a conference in Berlin, and I told the audience, this is my first time that I'm in Berlin. I want to make sure that I find the best dishes that I can eat local, so then I come back to my place and I can share stories with my kids. So I'm really worried because I do not understand what the typical dishes are here. Who can help me with this problem? And 99% of the people raised their hands and they started saying, you should try this, you should try that, da, da, da. But what was my real problem? What I was looking for
What?
was not the dish. It was to tell stories to my kids when I'm back home.
Ah, that's a good
And
point.
nobody was listening to what's behind that problem. To what really was important to me was that after the conferences I could go back to my place and spend time with my kids and talk about it and telling stories, not the dish. So this is a perfect example in customer success. When we hear my problem is, we start looking into solutions, the dish, the top three restaurants you can go. But is that the real problem the customer has? Is the customer aware that that's not his real problem?
Mm.
Those are questions to think of.
I laugh because it makes me go back into my own experience and start like analyzing myself into some scenarios I have had before, and meditate a little bit into, instead of jumping into the solution right away, I could change that and be my, the solution could be the second step, and versus asking the why. So your challenge is this and this, why? Or maybe rephrase it and then why. So if it gives you more info, I think that then the problem solving can come. And yeah, that's something that I have made mistakes before, and those mistakes can come with big problems if you think that you're giving the right solution but actually you're not. It's going to be even worse. And Nieves, there is a lot in customer success, right? We're touching on soft skills, and
Mhm.
not on hard skills like, okay, let's use tools like AI, ChatGPT, let's go into talk to your manager, this and there. Because if we don't, I feel that if we don't develop these soft skills first,
Mhm.
the other skills will just come automatically just by doing day to day, by asking other colleagues. But who will teach you empathy? Who will teach you curiosity? Who will teach you this adaptability? And if we touch on adaptability, I think that it comes a lot with flexibility as well. And
Yeah.
in my case, I've learned because, yeah, in my case, I have been learning customer success and learning, and now I'm just doing. And then it's a
Mhm.
different step, right? So now I notice that I'm not being flexible because I already have a structure in my mind, and so that's already a wall that uh, that is preventing me from hearing beyond. So when you said
Mhm.
about turn off the problem solving and turn on the curiosity, blew my mind completely.
Glad to hear. And I think you also said when you question why, I would change even the why into what for, because that's
Mm.
a super simple thing, but it unlocks a lot of information. Because with the why, you have an implicit questioning, like you can judge. There is kind of a
Mm.
judgment thing behind, very subtle, but it's there. When you change it into what for, you really go into what it's really important. So that's
It is indeed.
something to implement,
Indeed.
just give it a try.
Yeah, I will be curious to hear everyone when you're trying this. Let us know because this is something that we would love to also share with the world and share your challenges in that sense, like in the benefits of this. But I just want to remember everyone about Flowla. Remember that there is a link in the description, and with Flowla, you can also update customers in real time with a portal that shows progress. Then you can also collect data and documents inside your portal, and you can eliminate repetitive admin tasks that save time. So you're not only improving customer experience, you're also saving time internally. Nieves, we touch a lot about us as the individual collaborator and that passionate person who wants to go into customer success. But I want to grab your experience and your point of view and use it in our favor in the sense of hearing what a leader in customer success would expect from someone that is transitioning or just starting in customer success. What would you think are, besides the skills that we need to develop that we just touched, what is something that managers are looking for when it comes to performance?
I think what it's important is, first of all, to be able to, because you receive so many candidates, and you always want to build a player, or find the A player, right? So what will make someone, yeah, or what will position someone, I think it's first of all when that person can showcase, or um, yeah, showcase how they delivered value, being, for instance, how you reduced churn, in which percentage, how you help to increase the NPS score, what are those specific actions, what were the results. It's all about data. If and I've struggled with that at the beginning because I wasn't really aware of the importance of showing that data when going into interviews. And I was talking about, yeah, and these, yeah, but what's the impact on data? Because when you move from company, from role, I don't know you, but I tend to whoop, next, and then I forget the numbers, the impact, and that's so
The tracking
important
part.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, the tracking part of it, because this is part of your achievements. And if you cannot talk about that, that's super difficult for someone to understand the impact that you can make for a company. Something that it's also super important for me, and you were mentioning this, you can have 5 years of experience in customer success and know the framework, but that doesn't make me think, oh, I have the perfect candidate here. So the perfect candidate is when I have a profile and the hard skills match that profile. For instance, if I'm looking someone for onboarding, I need someone that has this onboarding
Hmm.
skills. But if I have 10 people with the perfect onboarding experience, I will always take someone with me that that has a positive attitude, because tough times will come, and I need people that can motivate people with me, and that are pleased, that can work in team. People that are super resourceful, because in CS you need to be resourceful, you need to find your way, and sometimes it's a hard way, sometimes it's easy, but you need to be that person that find whatever needs to be found to deliver value. And also someone that can show or showcase, or has the ambition to develop leadership skills,
Mm.
because even when you are not in leadership, you can lead a lot of initiatives, you can propose new frameworks, new ways of work that are not working, you can make with come with initiatives, you can help your peers, you can mentor your peers, you can influence things to happen. For me, this is super super good if I can find someone that I can test during the interview, that has potential, or that has those natural leadership skills, because it's not about delegation only, which is also important, by the
Yeah.
way, learning when to say no and when to say yes, but also, yeah, those, yeah, that proactivity, taking initiatives, not being scared of saying or speak your mind. Those are for me leadership skills that you don't need to be a leader to bring to the job, and that are super super important as well, and that will make you, at least if I want to hire you, think, this person can really really bring a lot of value to the team, beyond being a great onboarding CSM.
So it's the impact that we have done, and or the impact that we can bring. It's also about being resourceful, interesting,
Yeah.
yeah, leadership, ownership. But something that Sahil Karkera, and this is I follow him and I love the post that he does, is that he touches on hope. And you also touch on, you use a different word, but it matches with the hope. What do you think about that?
If I hear hope, for me is resilience.
Hmm.
Is, even if there are tough times, you know, you can stay and it will come good, and that's also the positivism, or the, not the fake positivism, like everything will go good and we are all happy. No, no, no. It's, tough times will come, you will lose customers, the company will not be with the results that they are expecting, but if you're resilient and you believe in what you're doing, if you have a supportive team, you have a supportive leader, navigating those tough times, and having that hope or that resilience will make you stronger, will help your customers during those times, and ultimately will drive business as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's just a whole combination of, it's a combination of different skills that at the end will develop also all other skills. But you say also learn how to say no. It's just also so complicated from the customer side and also from the internal side. And if we focus on the internal side, I think that something that has helped me a lot in this when I'm now starting in customer success and doing it is to understand how the other people are working and understand what are they driven by. Something like, for example, if I want to create a new feature request or if I want to follow up on something, I can go ahead and ask what are the best ways for me to do that, so that way we can start with the right foot versus doing it incorrectly. But I need to understand what is their process behind it, right? And you can make mistakes, of course, but I think understanding your peers is definitely something that I don't know if your manager is going to look for, but I think it's also powerful.
I think there are so many things we can talk about. You're now saying, my mind is now like, okay, let me structure my thoughts. So first of all, understanding what drives your peers is super important,
Mhm.
also to your own advantage, because if you understand their why, you can position your requests in a way that makes sense to them, because it fits their why. But also, I believe, I've been in the past leading a BDR team, and I moved from there to customer success. And I noticed, wow, I was in a bubble in the BDR world, and now I'm exposed to the whole organization,
Oh,
because CS is really at the center. So It's so important to be at the center, and understanding the whys of product, of sales, of marketing, because again, customer success should be the mentality and not the role. So when you are in the middle and you can be that key person that understands the why and put the whys together, that creates magic, and that creates value for the customer, because you also understand product isn't going to develop a feature just because my champion is saying I need that. First, I'm gonna check my my champion what for,
Mm,
and then you might understand that what they need for that feature maybe they don't need that feature, that can solve by another way. And then you don't need to involve product in that, because you really understand what's behind that feature request with your customer. So that's a whole puzzle sometimes.
it is, and I even wrote in a sticky note what for with my little with my beautiful handwriting to have it that in mind. I think it's super powerful, and completely create allies internally. And it's interesting because we haven't even touched on value and value realization and all of this because hey, it's super important. But as you can see, there are other. It's like when you're building a house, you need to first build the basis, and then
Mhm.
the rest will come. Nieves, unfortunately, it's time to start closing up today's episode, but I do have one more question for you. And it's basically if you can tell us a time when you fucked up and what did you learn from it. So we don't want to do it.
Well, I think this is a major lesson learned in my professional life that has also transferred into my personal life, and I touched on this earlier on, is learning how to say no.
Yes.
Because I remember making the mistake of not pushing back when a customer was given very, very unrealistic requests. And I used to, not anymore, luckily, but I used to think I'll find a way at all costs. And sometimes it's impossible, because when things are not under your control, they are not under your control, whether you like it or not. So when you realize what's in my hands, what's not in my hands, and you explain and have an open conversation with the customer, I've really learned that it's better to have, and they really appreciate, to have an open conversation and constructive conversation, and saying, I understand your request. This is not something we can do now, but in 3 weeks or whenever, or this is not something I can do, but I can bring. So learning how to say no, it's a master, but it's really necessarily, not only with customers, to set the right expectations, but also with colleagues on a private uh, um, perspective is super, super, super important, because I think in customer success, 90% of us are people pleasers, and sometimes it's very tough to not to meet that expectations that you've put yourself in a very bad position. So the greatest learning I can share is learn to say no and to set the right expectations with customers, because they really appreciate that, rather than say yes, 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 and then you cannot deliver.
Oh, those are powerful words, and it sounds easy, right? And we both know that it takes time, but we will all get there if I think we have the right mindset. And you also touch on saying no, but you also said open, having an open conversation. That was really interesting when I heard it. Like having an open conversation for me means not judge but understand.
Yeah, again.
Love this, Nieves. This is amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for all the insights that you have given us today for that person who is transitioning or even an early career customer success manager into what to expect and hopefully important tips that you gave today that will make a difference on their day to day.
Thank you. It was really super nice. Thank you so much for having me, and it's been really a pleasure. So yeah, I hope this can help some people, and of course, stay in touch via LinkedIn or via the websites. Happy to continue the conversation.
There you go, everyone. You have an open now. You can have an open conversation with Nieves. Run, run, run. But before we end today's episode, I want to remind you all about Flowla and all the benefits that it can bring to your company. Plus, remember that there's a discount for you. So if you're curious enough, go and check out the link, go and check out the discount, because with Flowla, you can also track the progress of implementations and see which progress overruns. You can also reduce churn. How? Well, with a better customer onboarding experience as an overall. You can accelerate time to value, and you can educate customers on the tasks they own and key dependencies. So they have a really good eagle eye of their task in onboarding. Remember, everyone, keep learning, keep growing, and let's keep improving the world of customer success. Until next time.